You're listening to the SKYLIT Books podcast. We're an independent, general interest bookstore putting great reads in the hands of people in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. Hosted by resident Skylighters, we're here to bring you new and exciting author conversations, group reads, and bookseller chats. Happy listening.
Hello, all you lovely listeners. Welcome back to the SKYLIT Books podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Austin, and today we're excited to welcome Sophia Benoit to talk about her memoir, Well, This is Exhausting. Sophia Benoit is a writer and comedian who grew up in Missouri and was correctly voted most likely to never come back. She's known for her wildly successful and hilarious Twitter account, @OneFollowerNoDad, having written sex and relationship columns for GQ and Bustle, and her bylines in Allure, Refinery 29, The Cut, The Guardian, Reductress, etc. She also writes an advice newsletter, Here's the Thing, in which she urges everyone to ask their crush out. Most importantly, I've known her since she was a college freshman at the University of Southern California, and she is one of my dearest friends. Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Was that horribly embarrassing?
That was delightful. It was horribly embarrassing at the beginning, but then really it turned around.
Oh,
this is the way I got you to admit that we're dear friends.
It is. And, you know, it was always in there. We knew that.
We knew it. We hadn't said it.
It was unstated in the way that most best things are. So Sophia, it's going to be like this for 30 to 40 minutes. Just everybody strap in.
If you're an editor of this, we are so sorry.
So sorry. Let us start officially by you doing a little reading from your book there. Well, This is Exhausting.
All right. This chapter is called I'm Not Doing Zumba With You. I do not, under any circumstances, want to do Zumba with you. Even in an emergency, even if there's a fire. I don't want to do a free trial of SoulCycle, and I'm not joining you even for beginners yoga. I'm not learning about Orange Theory or F45. We are distinctly not going to work out together. Workout classes, I'm sorry to say, are the opiate of the already fit, or the already thin if we're being quite honest with ourselves, which I don't normally recommend, but I'll make an exception. They're designed to make the workout that your hot friend Natalia does social for her. She wants workout buddies. She wants someone to hold her accountable for her 7 a.m. workouts. I do not, under any circumstances, want to be accountable for a 7 a.m. workout. Do you hear me? I am not meant to squeeze in workouts on my lunch break or otherwise. I most certainly do not want to pay a monthly membership fee in order to recreate my middle school gym class. I know I'm allowed to go at my own pace in theory, but in practice, you want me to keep up with people who can do that thing where you hold your leg up in the air while standing, the cheerleader thing. You know what I'm talking about. I can't keep up with people who can do that. My hips do need to be opened. You're right. I'm not going to try to solve that crisis in front of 25 other people in a mirrored room. Why the hell would I want to work out with other people? Why would I want an experience where we're all trying to get our bodies to do the same thing? Every friend of mine tells me, Sophia, it's not competitive. Just focus on yourself. No one is looking at you. That's utter bullshit, and we all know it. If I was really focused on me, there wouldn't be mirrors, and there wouldn't be other people, and there wouldn't be an instructor named Mandy with an I or Tracy with a Y at the front of the room with the Britney Spears headset on, shouting inspiration at me. If this were about me, if this were for my well-being, it would be an afternoon nap on my couch. Everyone is checking each other out, and you can't convince me otherwise. We're human. I took a couple of Zumba classes in college at the urging of my roommate. It was a full frontal nightmare. Not only was I red, sweaty, and more out of breath than everyone else combined, but I never got the moves. Everyone else looked vaguely musical, stomping their left foot on the waxed gym floor. I looked like an oversized toddler having either a tantrum or an exercise-induced asthma attack. I can never tell what I'm supposed to do when the instructor is facing me. Do I reverse her moves and mirror her, or do I match her? Am I supposed to raise my right arm because she's raising her right arm, or what? What's the plan here? Can't you just face the fucking mirror so I can follow along? I don't mind working out. I'm not going to pretend to love it, that it makes me feel so good after I'm done. I get weird headaches when I work out that doctors don't care enough about to figure out, despite their fervent enthusiasm for me losing weight. I have low blood pressure that makes me feel like I'm going to pass out sometimes when I bend over. I passed out one time at the gym and had to lie down on the floor. I got up only to pass out again. I like seated exercises, like biking and rowing for this reason. Workouts are a necessary part of my life that I do a couple times a week if I can. And if I can't, oh fucking well. I feel like I should just stop here before I read you the entire book.
That sounds, yeah.
They can cut it wherever, but also they'll get the point that I'm not going to work out.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
I don't change over the course of this essay. I just want to be clear.
You don't learn. There's no in the last paragraph.
No. There's no growth. The end is like, I'm still not going to work out with you. It's just, it's literally says, and that's why I'm never going to join you for an 8 a.m. kickboxing class. So there's no growth.
There's no growth. That's okay. I think that's okay. And I think that was a great place to start, because it really introduces your tone, your voice really well. And also I was going back over this book because I read it when it first came out to search for all the references that could possibly be about me. And then I recently went back to review it before we did this. And some of the things that struck me right away were just how deeply relatable it was to me, which probably is why we're friends. But certainly, feelings about your body, working out, gym class, your relationship to the idea of love and other people. And so, and I think these are obviously very relatable things and they cut across to me. They cut across gender to me. So I guess mostly where did you sort of decide to start sharing those types of things that was it always just hopeful they'd be very relatable, or were they just you're writing your experience and then by a byproduct of that, nature is universal?
I think my editors had a big push, and they're probably correct from a marketing standpoint. I get where they're coming from. There was a very big push early on to make this book very much appeal towards women, which makes perfect sense. I'm a young woman and I write a lot about sex and relationships from a perspective, obviously, because I am a cis white woman and that's a lot of my following. So that's my perspective. That's kind of my bread and butter. It's been that forever. I'm very loud about, or I have been historically really loud and often very annoying about equality and gender equality. So there was this huge push in the early stages of this book to make it very female centric, in kind of a ultimately reductive way. Cause I think often you get to this point where you're like, well, I mean, what makes a woman a woman? I mean, yes, we're all socialized as women and that's a connective tissue for certain people. But then there's also this very, again, the gender binary is super limiting. So I was always kind of, I was hesitant about that. And I really didn't want to write a book just for women. And this book isn't just for women. I want to make it very clear. And like you've said, which is incredibly nice, but I do think there's lots of essays, and maybe not every single essay, but there's lots of essays that really do cross intentionally into a place that's anyone can read this and think, I've been horny before, or I've asked someone out and it went so bad and it's so embarrassing to think about before, or my parents' expectations feel really stifling for me, or I tried really hard to be a good person and it turned out that I was being actually kind of a crappy person, and then I had to adjust. So all those things I think do cross lines because we're all flawed humans and we all keep doing these cute little things that replicate themselves. I think all the time about when you leave your house and you forget something and you come back in and someone's like, oh, are you back already? And we've all agreed that that's a cute, funny thing that we all do, all of us. I think probably crosses cultural boundaries too. Yeah. I think it's hilarious, but it's things like that where we all have these flaws that get repeated too, not just the cute little jokes. So this was such a long-winded answer, but I've had quite a few men reach out to me and say, I'm surprised by how much I identified with this. And it's again, it's marketed towards women. It's a pink book. It's got a champagne glass on the cover. It says ladies basically, it's basically shouting hey, are you a lady in your 20s? Get over here. Which I in some ways wish I had gotten away from a little bit more. But at the same time, I was a lady in my 20s when I wrote it. And there are those essays that maybe you personally don't connect with. But that there's 40 people in my DMs being yeah, that exact thing happened to me. I don't know why I have UTIs all the time. This is crazy,
Yeah. Yes. And two things that you've obviously just mentioned there that I almost forgot to mention that I related to so hard. First of all, your hypochondria, which we proudly share. And constantly, I feel like, are talking about symptoms to one another. And obviously extreme pressure from your parents to perform academically, to be a certain way. And I think that's obviously like a huge part of the beginning of this book and kind of carries throughout it in some ways. And I think you're, dedicating it to your parents is a very nice move to get a lot of pressure off of yourself, I think. What was it like starting to unpack some of that stuff, and what is their response? Have they read? They've read it, obviously.
They've both read it, and they both even read the parts that I specifically, you will see in certain chapters. I was like, do not read further. If you're my parents, this is a very graphic sex story. And I even included a note being like, Mom, this means you. And then in the Amazon review that my father left, which Amazon, very flawed, not great, but people go to see their reviews sometimes. And my dad left a beautiful Amazon review that mentioned that graphic sex story. And I was like, come on, please. So,
Michael,
I know my parents have been incredibly unreasonably supportive of this project. And especially for two people for whom a lot of the blame is laid at their feet, sometimes wrongly, probably not for sure. I'm definitely wrong all the time. And I think it's very easy to feel like your parents messed you up when the world's actually just hard and bad, and being a human is really hard, and we're all doing it the first time. And like, this is our first time. I think about that all the time of like, this is my first time doing this, by the way. Like I'm really messing up, I will admit, but like, it's my first time. So I feel like it's easy to sometimes put the blame there. And I think I have so much love for my parents, and I'm so close to both my parents, and twinned in with that, like DNA helixed with that, is they have extremely high expectations of their children because they love them so much. And they're like, you are my dad is the children of immigrants and very much has that mindset of like, we are the American dream. And he sometimes takes it a little far. He takes it maybe too far. But I think his father was a blacksmith and a butcher who dropped out of middle school and never had a full education. And then his sister, my aunt, was one of the first women to ever go to graduate school or try to get a doctorate at Princeton. So like, there's a huge jump for their generation of people. And so I think that pressure just kind of like the time they grew up in, like people were making these fantastic leaps from like, my grandparents grew up as farmers, and then you've got your kids going to college. That's crazy. So again, long-winded answer, typical of me, but I feel like their reaction has been wonderful, and they've really taken a lot of things with all the love that I like hoped to give to them with it too, because this is absolutely probably the worst version of a love letter to them, which is like, I could not be writing this book without, and as corny, I mean, like in all the material ways, I couldn't be writing a book without their support, their help, their encouragement, but also like in the immaterial ways of like, the reason I like think that I'm able to write a book, or like thought that I was able, which is a wildly delusional belief, was because they like gave me that, they gave me this idea that like, you could do this, like, sure, go big. And that's the like level of expectations they have, was like, yeah, you'll write a book one day. It was just like, okay, I guess I'll do that.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, I read past the introduction, but I want to just say quickly, I love the introduction where you realize that the opening to the Phantom Toll Booth is that you just like, you couldn't read it and you felt so bad that you couldn't read it. And it's a story about your dad giving you that book, which I think is so sweet. And like, obviously sharing his love of reading with you, but you felt so guilty about not being able to read it because you're like, this is so goddamn boring. And then you realize it's an introduction. So I just say that I loved how much you could weave your humor and personality from the literal introduction all the way through to the acknowledgments. And so was that a conscious, I mean, obviously it's a conscious effort on your part. Was there any resistance to that from editors? Did they want a straighter intro? Did they want a more normal acknowledgement?
Yes, they did want a more normal intro, and I hate intros. And so I kept telling them, they were like, explain the theme of the books and in the book and like bring in some of these themes. And I think they maybe not really wanted, but they would have preferred for me to deliver to them kind of like a mini like feministy girl powery manifesto-y vibe of like, we need to do this, or like, you will feel so good if, or like, here's how I learned, etc. Which is just not me. Like, I never think I'm in the right. I mean, I can be self-centered or, stubborn about things all the time, but I don't necessarily think like, oh, I'm so killing it and other people should follow this. And I mean, I have opinions on everything, but I don't believe them. So I try not to. And I think there was, I don't know, I think there was like a very conscious effort in me. I wish I could have even brought in more of my family into this book as I continued. And I think the biggest problem in bringing more of my family is, one, I think I have a little bit of a bad memory. I can't believe how some people write memoirs where they're like, and then in third grade I did this. I'm like, oh, what did I do every day in third grade? I do, like, literally, what did I do when I came home? There is a blank spot there. I think I played with Barbies. I played with Barbies way too late in my life, like an embarrassing late age. But one of the huge problems I had is that I can't write about, well, first of all, every time I talk or write about my parents, I cry because I love them so much. But second of all, I can't write about my mom because she's like too sweet and too good of a person. And so I was like, this is boring because she's so sweet. God love her, but she just means so well. It's so boring to read. It's just like, oh, someone's mom loved them, like, great.
It was a beautiful, beautiful relationship with very little bumps. Yeah, we're so close to this day. Yeah, well, yeah, that exactly, doesn't quite. That's not spicy. That's not selling books. You're not moving merch. So something you said in there that I wanted to really touch upon. A, because I need to know who this person is, and you can tell me later. It's fine. And B, because I think it's just a really interesting point that truly to me was incredibly illuminating, and I loved it. Is you tell the story about going to get coffee with someone. And essentially, it comes down to this person, someone I think you're interested in a horny way, to borrow your parlance.
Yes.
And they essentially say something to you along the lines of, "Isn't the point of life cultivating good taste?" Which is an incredibly douchey thing to say, and you kind of follow up with a really interesting point of view on that, and I just wanted to hear you talk about it a little more.
Yeah, so I looked at that essay when I was deciding what to read for this, because it's something that gets me riled up all the time. Is that I think a lot of people, and myself, my younger self, very much included, think that like this douchey guy who I can't wait to tell you who it is, but I have to tell you after the podcast because I've lied about who it is to two people. So I have to tell you afterwards so that I can tell you the truth. Mostly because they're close to the person. And so I couldn't, I had to, anyway, it was embarrassing. It's so awful.
I have theories. I
can't wait to hear for anyone out there who might not be as close to me. If you want to DM me, I will tell you the truth. I just can't tell the people in my life the truth. There are a couple of things like that, and there's also a couple of stories where I kind of like smushed some characteristics either down or together, where I was like, maybe we should change who that person is. But this person so openly said, I think the point of life is to cultivate good taste, and I think that's just, well, first of all, that's ridiculous on a face level of like the point of life. Well, first of all, we're on a rock. Like, we're just hanging out. Like, there's no point. And that's fine. But if you're going to be like, the point of life is, you're not going to say like, you're not going to go the Beatles route and be like love. And you're not going to go with like helping people or just like caring for others or community. You're going with cultivating good taste. Like, that's so ridiculous. That's silly. But I think the bigger picture point is that, and the point that I try to make in the book is that as a woman in particular, our taste is so denigrated. And obviously maybe not obviously, but I'm a white woman. So this is even so much sharper for anyone who isn't white and anyone who isn't this like majority hegemony, westernized American, like white cis dude. But, like, I remember reading once that when the Beatles first were coming on the scene, they had mostly female fans and they were dismissed by critics and other people in the area alike as this boy band that was like poppy and shitty and nothing. And they had all these female fans, and like music critics kind of like scoffed at this. And this may be apocryphal, but this also happens all the time, so I'm fine with it being apocryphal. It's also a useful anecdote. So then soon men started to like the Beatles, and then all of a sudden they're the greatest band in the world. Like, men like them, they're the greatest band in the world. And I think that happens a lot with women's taste. Like, the number of times people have made fun of me for watching The Bachelor is unbelievable. Meanwhile, my boyfriend constantly drops that he watches The Bachelor because he does watch it with me all the time, and with you, and calling you out. You've been dragged into it by your girlfriend too. And no one says anything about him watching The Bachelor. No one thinks he's an idiot for watching The Bachelor. He will literally say it's actually a really well-edited show, and people respect his opinion on it. They're like, oh, really? I'm gonna have to watch. Meanwhile, if I'm like, oh no, it's a really well-edited show, people are like, okay, well, good luck at the dumb bitch awards. Like, there's not, as a woman, it's very hard to convince people that your taste is good. I mean, honestly, another great example that I didn't include in the book, which I thought of later, is throw pillows. Pillows are useless. We all agree they're useless. No one's like, yeah, they have tons of purpose, but they make your house look nice. And women have gotten shit for years for fucking throw pillows. Meanwhile, please open any magazine edited by, written by, anything with a man. Go to a rich man's house. Do you want to know what he has? Throw pillows, because they make his house look nice.
Yeah. Your Beatles analogy is so right. I was thinking about this last night. It's the exact same story of Frank Sinatra, who was like a teeny bopper guy until he becomes, Mr. Rat Pack. Elvis was the same way. Like, yes. It kind of, it's literally happened throughout history.
Ryan Gosling, probably.
Almost certainly. Where in many ways, like, women, and they specific, I feel like Harry Styles at this point is kind of in this camp where he is now a respected artist after having been like scoffed at, after being One Direction. Like, you could almost make the argument women, specifically teen girls, are on like the bleeding edge of what is cool and interesting and what will be, soon to be mainstream. And so it was very interesting, is like someone who is a white straight man in America who's had a lot of culture pointed at me for my entire life, to go, oh, right. Like, why is it that, these things, a quote unquote chick flick is given that label and is always seen as lesser, when things that I like aren't necessarily, seen that way. So that was just a truly, really inspired point of view.
Well, first of all, thank you. That was incredibly kind of you. One of the ones, the biggest one that I wish I would have thought of this, but there's a category in almost every, like on Amazon, on any bookseller, that it says women's fiction. What are we doing? What are we doing? What's women's fiction? What do you mean? Where's men's fiction? What are you talking about? Oh, that's just fiction? Yeah. Oh, that's just okay, that's just fiction. That's fine. It's like there's a ridiculous, like you said, there's just this, like, a lot of culture has been aimed at you. And again, I don't want to say, like, as a white woman, a lot of culture has also been aimed at me. So I don't want to pretend like I'm suffering because of this, but more like, I can't ever have good taste. Nothing I like is ever going to be good taste, because I can't get there. So, like, why don't I just kind of luxuriate in having bad taste and enjoy when I have quote unquote bad taste, and kind of get over myself and stop trying to, like, prove myself as this, like, smart and, like, intellectual consumer. Those are the same word, but you get the point.
Absolutely. Well, and to kind of what you just said there brings kind of in the larger theme of the book, or the point of the book in many ways, is so much of your life was spent trying to live up to the expectations of your parents, of cool girls in high school, of guys you were trying to impress in college. And like, at a certain point, you just become exhausted at the charade of all that. And you get to kind of embrace who you are, which I think is a huge point in taste, but then and also in the way you want to live your life. And I think that's such an interesting point as well, to think, like, after so much effort being put into being something that you're not, that you just can't do it anymore. And then you tap into something that makes you actually much happier, which is just kind of being what you want to be.
You're doing such a great job of reading this book and being an interviewer. That sounds condescending. I know that sounds condescending, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like you like read the book very well and got like a lot of the things that I wanted you to get out of it. So I don't know. Please edit this out. I know that's stupid, but it's like kind of nice. I don't know. I feel like some people are like, what does it mean to be a strong lady? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm crying every day. I cried today. What are you talking about? No, but I think you're okay.
I may never recover from that.
That's fair. No, that's fair. I'm always, I mean, I do feel like I did the like, it's a little bit like the Sisyphusian task of like Sisyphean task. Oh God, that's a word.
I think you nailed it either way.
It's both. He likes both. It's pushing the boulder up the hill of like societal approval and approval from others, and like especially male approval, which was huge for me in college and later in my life. And like I mean, I still find myself in all these traps of wanting male approval, male attention, or wanting parental approval or societal approval, or like I'll convince myself that someone on my Instagram is so cool and they hate me, and that's like that is such a waste of my time. And yet, but I feel like I got to this point where it's not. I think part of the big point of the book is it's not that I came to some of these conclusions or let go of some of the effort that I was putting in because I had these epiphanies of feminism and, you know, just like my praxis needs to be better. And it was, like you said, I just got exhausted and I kind of just let the boulder roll down the hill by itself. And I kind of just rolled down the hill after it. It was like, all right, I suck at this. I'm really bad at it. I don't know what to do anymore. And, I mean, what can you do? It was kind of this like blow up point in my life at the end of college towards the end of college that like all these things that I've been wanting for so long and trying for so long didn't matter and weren't working out. And I got really angry. And then then that alienated all these people in my life, rightfully so. I was very annoying. And you knew me then, so you can be kind about it. But I think we both know I was very annoying for certain periods of my life. And then it was like, you know, it was the like blow your own ship up kind of moment of like, I have nothing. Let's blow this up. It's not working. And then as soon as like the anger of that like explosion and fire died down, which took probably 2 years, I was kind of left with something better and cooler, which was like, okay, you care about people. Let's admit you care, but maybe let's not spend your entire life trying to just build it around others. Maybe that could be cool.
Just to try, just to sample it out a little bit.
Sample it. Maybe pull back because you're kind of intense and it is scaring people. You know, it's a lot for everyone. You know.
Well, and it's so interesting. You say like obviously like you just sort of blow it all up and like you kind of almost give yourself a clean slate. You're down to the rubble. You clear the rubble away. And in that place, there's a great chapter about sort of, you know, the internet and social media rightfully gets a lot of valid criticism. But for you, it kind of opened a door to a new kind of way to look at things and just a whole other array of points of view on things. And so it became a really helpful tool for you. And so like you know, was that something in the moment you were realizing was happening or sort of in retrospect?
I would say much more in retrospect, but it's always kind of easy to like figure out that you learned a lesson after you learned it. And sometimes in the moment, it just feels like you're swimming upstream. And I came to Twitter at such a weird time where people were still, first of all, Twitter was still really fun and jokey back then, and it wasn't political, and no one was sharing articles at all. Like the idea that you would share an article was ridiculous. Like the nerds were sharing articles, and everyone was tweeting like good cop, bad cop jokes and like good night moon jokes. And there was like there would just be like a weekly meme of sorts, and everyone would just tweet jokes. It was so much fun. How young we were. That's not the saying. It's were we ever so young, I think. It's fine. The people get it.
Yeah.
But I spent this time on Twitter because I really thought I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and I entered Twitter that way, and I wanted to do at least one tweet a day, or maybe it was at least 3 tweets a day or something. And my requirement was that they all be clean, which if you've now heard this interview or read my book, you probably have realized that ended very quickly. But for years I had a clean Twitter where I only wrote clean jokes, which was phenomenal for me. Mostly because I thought I was going to get kicked out of college if they found out that I said the F word, which is not how college works at all. Little did I know. And, but I had to write all these jokes, and I forced myself to, and I just wanted to have joke after joke after joke. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could be this like font of humor. And it started that way. And then all of a sudden I started like following other comedians who were women, and they would intersperse their jokes with things like, I can't believe that I'm going to a stand-up show where there's 3 rapists on the lineup and 1 woman. And at first that kind of stuff didn't really sink in and didn't seem like it applied to me. Of course it applied to me, but I didn't know that because I was 19 and a dummy. And so those things slowly kind of trickled in from a very like white female comedian perspective. And then it started to like occur to me so late in my life, embarrassingly late, and only late because, again, like I've mentioned many times, I have this immense amount of privilege. So it could be late in my life that like maybe if you're treated unfairly as a woman versus men, that there also might be other axes of privilege going on, which like I knew on a very logical level, but I wasn't really dipping into listening to other people. I was very much like, yeah, I got it. Racism's bad. Sexism's bad. We hate homophobia. It's 2022. I vote liberal. I am liberal. It wasn't 2022 back then. Sorry. It's been 2022 for so long for me. It was 2015. But I like thought, or maybe 2014, but I thought I like had all those things down. I was like, I'm not racist. I'm liberal. I'm doing all the right things. I like drive a Prius. How could I'm unimpeachably good. And then slowly I like unpacked all this stuff, but it was all from the internet and all from social media, which is, like you said, totally valid to criticize it and a rotten cesspool. And also this place that like, I wouldn't think billionaires are bad if I had never been on Twitter. I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't have any concept of that, I don't think, if I hadn't been on social media. I think I would just be this like nerdy white girl who just spent all her time reading nerdy books. And then, and there's something to gain from books, there is, but like who gets published, who gets to talk, who, there's this like equalization factor and this immediacy of social media that brought me to much more elevated conclusions about the world than I think I would have gotten to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's clear talking to you now, how much that has, become a part of who you are. And I think that's really wonderful. I know we ended on a more serious note there, but I do want to go back to the part where you're writing jokes on Twitter. Because there were some really interesting chapters, there's some chapters in here that are written more like a list that are just kind of one-liners, which is reminiscent of your sort of Twitter style. And I guess I was in the writing of it, were those things you couldn't find a place for, or you're just like, these are jokes that are so good and I just need to find a way to get them in here? Are they all thematically tied? And what was the decision to be like, some of these chapters are just going to be bang, 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 joke, 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 joke?
I wanted more chapters like that. One person whose books, I think the first time I read a book that I felt like, this is going to sound, I don't know how to even put it. I felt like, oh, you wrote this for me, even though clearly this person didn't. And it's even funnier when I'm going to tell you what the book is, because I read this as a probably 19-year-old, and the book was Nora Ephron's I Feel Bad About My Neck, which is about being a 50-year-old woman. Like, this is who I am as a person. Like, fundamentally, you can't think of a more Sophia moment, probably. It's just who I am. I really felt like, oh my God, yes, I connect with so much of this. Again, that's so insane to think about now. But and her books have these phenomenally funny lists, which I would deign to compare myself with with Nora Ephron, but in so many ways, I loved that quick wit, because she can do so much in a list. I mean, she's like, it's like the 6-word Hemingway story, but like, hey, did you want that 20 times in a row? And you're like, yeah, I do, but really funny. And just poignant, and hers were beautiful. I loved her list. So when I thought, and I read through books that I thought were similar, Shrill by Lindy West, and then all of Nora Ephron's writing, both of them used lists. Oh, and obviously Samantha Irby, all of her books have these phenomenal lists. She has an entire chapter that is her bachelor interview or bachelor application. I think about it all the time. But all of these phenomenal female writers that wrote memoirish books used lists. And I love the juxtaposition of kind of going on and on and on about something, which is what an essay is. It's so obnoxious, whoever invented it, God bless them. But it's a funny and somewhat annoying writing style. And of course I picked that one. And I love that juxtaposition with a list, which is bam, 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 and occasional moments and flickers of emotion, but mostly just humor. And I thought those were nice breaks from sometimes really heavy things, because in, certain essays here, there's a lot about hating my body or hating myself or sexual assault or illness or all kinds of things of just like kind of weighty topics, even if I'm mostly trying to be light about them. So I wanted something that was then like, let's have some fun. And I wanted more lists in there, and I wanted more. At one point I talked to an editor about having graphs in there and more visuals. But I think I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I feel like maybe more would have taken away from some of the essays if I made it too listy. But yeah, I wanted to break it up, and also, as a reader, don't you love it when you turn to a chapter and it's like 2 pages long and you're like, hell yeah, here we go.
I'm getting shit done today. This chapter's out of here.
Yes.
Accomplishments. Yeah.
It feels so good.
It's the best. Yeah. No, and I think there's a definitely a good amount. I mean, yeah, I was surprised because when I first read it, I was like, oh, I love the list. And I think, was there 3 or 4?
I think there's 4 total. I think there's
4 total. Yeah. Yeah, it felt like there were more, and I think maybe that just speaks to how funny they all are and how, like, just cut diamond they are, that they stick with you because they're perfectly bite-sized, and like the jokes will just, they hang with you.
There was one list that got cut that I was asked the question at my book event recently, that someone said, what got cut that you kind of wish had stayed in or you wish you would have fought for, which, great question. Would love to answer that. I'll ask it to myself. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe you can get this person over here to start interviewing you.
I wish they were here.
Great, yeah.
No, but there was this list that was everyone I've ever had a crush on and what they're up to now. And it was cut mostly because I started it with like all these kind of like childhood crushes and that I couldn't find out about some information and all this. And then one of the crushes of mine, which is what I ended up going to prison for murdering his child. And not crushes, he actually just asked me out, I guess, but it kind of was like, I kind of cheated there, I guess. But I thought it was a funny list. And my editor was like, this does not match the tone of the rest of the book. The beginning of it, maybe. She's like, what are you trying to say here? Which is fair, but I also kind of missed that list.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they always say. You want to end on the child murder.
Yeah.
Powerful hammer.
Powerful ending.
Yeah. Well, moving towards both the end of your book and the end of our time together, I did want to bring up another story about Dave, your partner, who, look, you're a lady. I can't talk about you without talking about a guy you're attached to. No, Dave's great. We love him. He's the best. But you have this great story about you two going to Mexico City, and it's also a moment that I relate to, but I'm more the Dave in the story. I'm the Dave in the story in general, but in the specifics, I'm the you. In which case, that exact thing has happened to me, and I thought I was dying, and I had to like look it up, and then I realized what had happened. But generally, my partner Audrey is constantly being like, "Don't eat that. Put that down. What's wrong with you? Stop. Don't smoke that cigar. You're a maniac. Please." So what was it now? So like, obviously it's so different being a person who's like very early on in the book, you talk about like thinking the idea of romantic love is dumb and like having that point of view. And even if secretly you felt like you were always sort of obsessed with it, what is it now being in like a long-term successful relationship? And you kind of have to contend with a partner who doesn't always listen to you, is can be have very different opinions than you, can be opinionated in their own right. What is that like? And also, if you want to quickly tell that story about going to Mexico City, I think that'd be great.
So the story goes that I went to Mexico City, very high elevation. It was my boyfriend and my first time in Mexico City. Phenomenal city. We keep going back. I cannot recommend it enough. But the high elevation means that sometimes you get altitude sickness. And we were also staying on the 14th floor of a hotel, which made it even worse. And so we were getting tired and dehydrated. And I, of course, was looking up on WebMD, as you do every day, what are signs of altitude sickness and how do I cure it? And they basically said, get rest, get water, and take ibuprofen, which of course I packed with me. Don't worry, girls. And so I did all those things and I still kind of felt a little crappy. But one thing that I noticed was that Dave's hands were turning blue. And if you've read the WebMD for altitude sickness, as I have, you will know that your hands and extremities, if you will, only turn blue if you're getting extreme altitude sickness, which is very dangerous because you can die. Fun little fact there. And so I am like, Dave, this is not good. We should probably just go to a clinic. I'm sure there's a clinic somewhere nearby that is used to having people that only speak English. And I'm sure someone can help us. Like someone will do this, even if we don't have, even if your insurance doesn't work here, like this is worth it. Like yes, it will take a day out of our trip possibly, but worth it. You might be dying. And I nagged him for at least 2.5 days. I think it was about 2.5 days. And I finally, on that final night before the next half day, reached a point of acceptance of his death where I started to plot out how I was going to explain to the Mexican authorities that the person next to me that I woke up with in a hotel bed, in an Airbnb bed, was dead. Yes, it's my partner, and it's our first trip we've ever taken together. And of course, he's dead from just normal altitude sickness, which I'm fine. He's dead. And I was like, I don't even know. I literally started thinking about how I didn't know his dad's phone number and I didn't know what his funeral arrangement should be. And I was like, I'm going to have to get into his phone and call his dad and be like, so your son died. Anyway, it turned out that the next day we found out that he had bought new jeans for the trip and they turned his hands blue when he put his hands in his pockets. So I was wrong. And I nagged him for 2.5 days and he was like, can you shut up for 2.5 days? He didn't say that at all. He was like, I think I'm okay. But to answer the bigger part of the question, I never thought that I would be in a long-term serious relationship, mostly because I thought it was, like you said, dumb and very boring. And I just thought, like, I love excitement. I love newness. I'm so into the idea of somebody wanting me. Like, I grew up, as a huge part of the book explains, an overweight kid who never had people wanting them. So now it seems like the thing, like this big achievement, which is so silly and such a waste of my brain space. But I think it was really hard for me to imagine just, picking one person and sticking with it, because what's the point? Let's have fun. And I have 2 metaphors that I use a lot in writing, that there's a similar metaphor that Sam Irby uses, I think, too. So I don't want to pretend like I'm the first person to come up with this, but one is the idea that new love often feels like a roller coaster, which is very fun and exciting. And old love or long-term love feels often like coming home and like sitting in a cozy chair and putting on your favorite socks, which like that isn't as exciting as a roller coaster. I will give you that. But like what you don't want to be on a roller coaster forever. Like you really don't. And the other one I use is like, if someone told you that like this is what you're going to eat every morning for breakfast, you'd pick oatmeal, you wouldn't pick Pop Rocks, which is like, you want someone who is this like steady and grounding force. And I think it's been at times very hard for me to reconcile the idea that I only get one life. And so sometimes it feels like, oh, if I only am with one person, that's like a limiting choice, when it isn't. It's a very expansive choice. But it's like a Sylvia Plath in The Fig Tree, where she's sitting on the fig tree and wants to eat all the figs, but she never picks one because she wants to eat them all and then they all rot. I think that's like very easy to do. And it's very easy to feel like if I make this one decision, it's going to turn me into one person and I'm with one person and therefore I become one person. And that's not the case. It just takes a lot more effort when you're in a long-term relationship to like remember to still discover yourself and to like people talk a lot about like falling back in love with your partner, which is fine. That is what it is. But that's such a bad way to put it. It is what it is. Yeah, sure, do that. But I think there's also got to be like this huge effort to make sure to keep falling in love with yourself again and again, or not falling in love, but like rediscovering that like, oh, hey, I can be different too. Like I can change as a person. I'm not locked in on this. So I would say, my parents have both been married 4 times and engaged even more than that, and to many different people, not to each other. And I think I always kind of thought my life would go like that and be just like excitement, breakup, heartbreak, little, ups and downs. And I found that it's like kind of been the great project of my life so far. I don't know that it will be forever, but to kind of learn how to be steady and learn how to be like there and present and keep showing up for a person and keep being like in it and not submit to the idea of this is boring or this is not as like thrilling as meeting a new person on a dance floor who probably hates me. It isn't as thrilling as that. No one will ever be as thrilling as that person you met at 19 who didn't like you. No one will ever be as thrilling as them. I think we all have a person we met at 19 who hated us and that we love. And they're a terrible person now, Anyway, that's the baby murder. Yes, I'm kidding. Yeah. It's not. I wish that person would have been the person who ended up killing their kid. Not that I wish anyone would kill their kid. I'm just saying I wish if I could pick one person,
who would go to jail for the rest of their life.
Yes, someone should go to jail, and it should be the person that I thought I would end up with at 19 who treated me poorly a little bit. Mostly it's my fault,
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great answer, and makes a lot of, I first of all, preaching to the choir, because I think a huge reason we're friends, share a lot of these same sort of neuroses. And it's that feeling, especially, again, I think we can agree on this, is like when you grow up and you're like uncomfortable in your body and you're sort of unwanted. And then like all of a sudden you have choice. And then you're like, well, what am I going to do with all this choice? And then you like zone in on one thing. It feels like, well, I'm wasting all this choice. And, but it's really a choice you get to keep making over and over again.
Way to put it. Yes. And it's also like, I also think it's a very selective memory, because I often like writing this book. I went through and read my journals from college because I was in a class that made me keep a journal. And then I kept going through it, or like made me do like morning pages basically, and kept making me do this. So I did it for about the last 3 years of college, and it's such a period of time I romanticized in my life as so fun and so filled with desire, and so filled with people maybe not wanting me, but me thinking maybe they did, which felt very exciting, and like that possibility. And then I reread my journals and I was like, oh, you had anxiety the whole time. That's so cool that you thought that was such a fun time, because you are, admittedly, it's a journal, so you're like letting out some of the worst stuff and like getting out like the phlegm, but it was not as great as I wanted to think. I was like, oh yeah, a lot of people didn't want you back, and there weren't choices, or a lot of people like hurt your feelings, or you hurt your feelings, or you were awkward around them. So I think it's like very easy to romanticize the idea of like this wide open expanse of possibility. But I think there's also, like you said, like there's something really nice in just like continuing to pick somebody who puts their little hands in their little jean pockets and gets them all blue. And now you think they're dying and you don't know what to do with their body in Mexico.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for joining me. This was so lovely. What a nice chat we get to have as friends. Just the two of us talking about your book.
Thank you so much
Amazing.
for doing this.
Oh no, please. This was a joy for me. I mean, I've said this before, when we get our partners together in a room with us, I miss my one-on-one Soph time.
I know. They're left out. They're the third and fourth wheel.
Push them away for 45 minutes, please.
They don't have the long-term, like years-long relationship that we do. We've been in it since the trenches.
I mean, I think it was the last
first week of college for me.
Yeah.
For me, first week of my college, I met you, and then it was just like, you're seeing all of it. Good news.
I think the last time we hung out, you had the realization it's been 11 years, and the air left my lungs. Just impossible.
That's like a third of our lives.
You did it to me again. Why would you say things like this, Sophia? You're so right, but God damn it.
Look,
yeah.
I'm just being me.
Be you. I'm never going to tell you not, except sometimes. Except sometimes. Well, again, thanks again for joining me. Thank you all the listeners of the SKYLIT Books podcast. You can pick up Sophia Benoit's amazing, lovely, hilarious, touching, heartfelt book at the Arts Annex location. It's going to be at 1814 Vermont Avenue. I almost spaced the address. 1814 Vermont. Go in and pick it up at the Arts Annex. It's going to be in the humor section. They are all signed. One of them will be personalized to the captain. Look out for that book. It's in there somewhere. And thank you all for listening. Much appreciated.
Thank you for listening to the SKYLIT Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylitbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.